told you guys this once. I've told you guys this 1,000 times. Eventually, there are two types of people. People who get that I'm right and people who don't get that I'm right yet. However, this is something that I've been warning you guys for nearly years now. More so months. I think about 11 months to be exact. But it seems a very prominent voice actor came out and said that AI will destroy voice actors and the gamers will cheer. Yes, they will.
How's it going, everybody? I'm Gary. I'm a voice actor, I'm a gamer, and I'm a PhD in AI voice stuff. Today, I wanted to talk about the thing that every voice actor is absolutely terrified of. That is
getting a real job. My name's Paimon, and I can't afford to pay my rent. What do we do, traveler? Maybe get a real job. Stop having a gig that you work 4 hours every 3 months and say, well, that's my full employment. Brother, fill out a job application. Jump scare. Huh.
Actually understanding why AI is predicted to completely obliterate the voiceover industry. And in order to understand this, we actually have to understand something that is seemingly unrelated to AI, the social side of the voiceover industry. As I'm sure many of you know, there's been a massive controversy with the video game voiceover strike and the Genshin Impact strike. My voiceover mentor, Joe Zizia, who I greatly respect, recently released a video on this topic. So
Smart
the video
guy.
got a bit...
Smart guy. I think his video did a lot of good. I think his video did a lot of bad, but I think his heart was in the right place. But he was confused in a couple of things, but yeah, it is what it is. I helped clarify the video and I made sense of it.
Bit of a mixed reception, and if you ask me, the release of the video was really poorly timed. A lot of people thought the video was biased in favor of the union, and while I don't necessarily agree, I completely understand why.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mostly because while he covered a lot of information about the voiceover union, what it means to go FICOR and what a Taft-Hartley is.
It was pretty much every single time that he had to speak out against the union, he would say, it's not as simple as you think it is. And then I would explain why it's exactly as simple as we think it is. It was a hit and it was a miss, but overall, I think it was a lot of positivity and clarification that was provided to a lot of people to be able to get to a deeper meaning and understanding of the truth, especially the fact that the AI thing they were fighting for never actually existed.
He chooses not to talk about any social aspects of the industry. In fact, he even admits it in his own video.
And that brings me to the real tricky part, the social side of things. Understand that I'm not getting to this here because this is not measurable. It is a feeling. So when we start asking questions like, why doesn't everyone just go FICOR? Or are people being blacklisted for working on non-union games during the strike? These really deal with non-measurable social feelings.
I'm not sure he intended this, but the fact that he chose not to talk about these things may have been more informative than if he had actually talked about them. Because it highlights one specific point. Voice actors cannot speak about the social aspects of the industry, and they will never talk about blacklists. Now, just to clarify, there may be some people who...
As a guy who was blacklisted from the blacklisters, I don't feel bad that they're now getting blacklisted. I don't care at all.
Aren't familiar with the entertainment industry lingo, who think that a blacklist is a literal list of names. It's not really. As Joe said, the blacklist is mostly just a feeling. If you are on the blacklist, it just means that people will refuse to work with you for any possible reason outside of the merit of your own product. There are plenty of industry leaders who will deny that the blacklist exists, so you won't find very many news articles about it, but you don't need to look very hard to see that the blacklist clearly does exist.
Absolutely.
For example, let's just...
For Genshin Impact, the blacklist exists for voice actors as well as it does for the content creators. It's very obvious who's blacklisted and who's not.
Take a look at what started the whole Genshin Impact fiasco. When voice actor Jacob Takanashi was cast in a role that some other voice actors thought he shouldn't be cast in, they just started blacklisting him immediately. Voice actor Shara Kirby just blatantly said it. You'll never work another job again. Kaylee Mills publicized Jacob's financial information in an attempt to justify the bullying that Jacob received. Voice actor Jun Yoon, who is a prominent voice acting veteran, went out of his way to ridicule Jacob by publicly stating that he's blacklisting Jacob from his casting. Honestly, actually seeing June do this was really upsetting to me because up until that point, June was actually one of my idols. Never meet your heroes, right? Within moments of announcing his voiceover role, the industry started...
People like to romanticize how good of a person is when they never display it fully authentically online. That's why a lot of content creators never get into their deeper feelings or feelings on political things, because it ruins the immersion of how good of a person everyone's pretending that you are. And that's why when you can find a content creator that you truly relate to while they're being fully transparent with their community, that's when you know that you're going to find someone who you can relate to and watch for the foreseeable future, when your entire respect for them isn't based off of illusion.
Cutting all
That's the reason why I watch people like Asmongold. I like knowing exactly where he stands, and even if I disagree, I understand why he has that viewpoint. It's very simple.
Jacob. This happens all the time in the industry. In Jacob's case, it was because he had the wrong opinions or did something that people didn't like. But it might just be because you said something mean to someone or you criticized their work, or maybe they just think you're ugly. There's virtually no way to stop a blacklist from happening, and it's actually an indicator of a much larger problem in the industry. The voiceover industry has no standards. And by standards, I don't mean like a girl doesn't have standards for her deadbeat biker boyfriend. I mean that the industry doesn't have a clear metric to evaluate a good voiceover performance from a bad voiceover performance. We can look at the field of engineering for a perfect contrast to this. Let's say two people are building a rocket. One flies 20 feet before crashing, the other flies 50 feet before crashing. That in and of itself is a metric for evaluation. Now, it might not be the perfect metric or the metric that you need to evaluate the effectiveness of a rocket, but at the very least, the metric exists. More importantly, it's possible that the guy who built the better rocket is a complete jerk. Now, you can say you don't want to work with the guy because he's a jerk and he's terrible to work with, but you cannot deny that he built the better rocket.
Sure.
All this is just thrown out in the voiceover industry. Their
This is a very clearly jab at Elon Musk.
metrics are like which performance is more emotional, which one is more nuanced,
Hey guys, whether you like Elon Musk or you hate him, you gotta admit, the fucking electronic vehicle industry skyrocketed due to Tesla. It did. And the Cybertruck is cool as fuck. I don't give a fuck what anybody says.
performance is more real or grounded. These things aren't really metrics because they're all opinionated. Voice directors or voice actors or casting directors, they'll always claim that they can just hear a performance and know that's the best performance and that's the right one for the job. Put a pin in that claim, we'll come back to that later. But
Would you just say, Asmongold is one of the rare content creators, though, that doesn't rely solely on advertisers and partnerships? Well, actually, it's quite the opposite, right? Because he turns off all revenue on his Twitch streams, and he gives 100% of his channel's revenue to his editors. So he does, in fact, rely on partnerships. He does, in fact, rely on ads, right? He absolutely does. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Same thing with me. Like, I also rely on partnerships, but the thing is, all of my partnerships are Chinese and Japan. They don't know English, and they just know that I move people to gacha games. So they fucking love me, which is great, which means you can be genuine. No, there's a lot more. You can still be genuine while relying on partnerships, right? You just have to find the right partnerships. It's not hard. Same thing with Gamersubs. Gamersubs has been one of the biggest supporters of my channel, and so many people have told them to never buy my fucking shit ever again, or to work with me ever again. Yet, Code Baldy, I mean, shit, I made like 20, 30 grand last month off of Gamersubs, right? And I appreciate all you guys who drink this shit because I drink it every fucking day. It's delicious. It's great. I wake up every morning. I have 1 scoop of Happy Juice, 1 scoop of insert other flavor. I don't care. And then I do 1 scoop of creatine. And I drink that shit with 18 ounces of fluid water. It's fucking delicious. Most others have to fake to maintain income. So here's the thing. I have nothing wrong with fake creators who have that aura of, look at how great of a person I am. Look at how kind of a person I am. Just stay in your fucking lane. And if you're one of these people who's a fake ass motherfucker, don't come at me trying to virtue signal how good you are and how bad I am when your entire personality was written on a fucking notebook given to you by one of these corporations that you shill your fucking soul towards. Like I give a fuck what you have to say. Like I give a fuck what Zyox says about me. Yeah, fucking right. Bro was created in a lab by Hoyo themselves to be the biggest fucking shill for that game. And when Hoyo stops botting that motherfucker, like anybody's gonna give a fuck about him. Yeah, fucking right. Bro was built in a cave with a box of scraps. Anyways.
the truth is, one casting director might like one performance, one casting director might like another performance, and you cannot argue which one is better. It happens all the time. And this lack of standards, this conveniently flexible interpretation of what is good and what is bad, is exactly why blacklisting happens. Any casting director could just argue that they weren't the right fit for the job, and there is no way to argue against it. And unfortunately, the most important social aspect of the industry is evaluation in casting. Hugh Klitsky, an amazing voiceover coach who I really respect, summarized it really well in a bit of a comedic LinkedIn post. He said this: "You didn't get the job? Here's why. You sounded like the producer's mom. You sounded like the director's ex. You sounded happy, but not the right kind of happy. You sounded too tall or too blonde or too much like everyone else, and so on." If you read through the entire post, you'll notice that there is a reason that is missing from that list. Someone else is better than you. Because as an industry veteran, he knows that the industry doesn't have those metrics, at least none in a way that actually matters. Because if you look at the metrics that the voice directors use, nuanced, emotional, grounded, real, you'll also notice that there's one metric that the voice acting industry generally doesn't use, and it's probably the most important metric of all: whether or not the audience likes it. And that's the only metric that,
like, let's be real, right? Like, being a voice actor is really cool, but it's legit just a Nepo baby industry. and whether you get lucky or not and sound cool off genetics. I mean, it requires zero brain power whatsoever. They give you a literal piece of paper. They tell you exactly what to say. They tell you exactly how to say it, and then you just do it, right? Like, nobody should be shocked that this shit's going to get replaced by AI, because now instead of giving a human those prompts, you give a robot that prompt. Like, it will be overtaken by AI very, very, very soon, because they don't have to do any thinking for themselves.
Actually matters. Anyone who's been paying attention to AAA video games the past few years knows that the industry, or at the very least the video game industry at large, tends to use metrics that are inversely correlated with what.
And it's also like, you don't even have to sound good. Like, listen to a T-Pain song. Just auto-tune your voice and people will just listen to it. It's really that easy.
The audience likes. Often you'll see that the games the industry claims are high quality end up actually being the worst games when rated by the gamers. And unfortunately, the video game voiceover industry is starting to go down the same path. They've used up all their remaining goodwill with the SAG-AFTRA video game strike, and now they're starting to deny that the audience is even relevant to the industry's success at all. But when the industry stops caring about how an audience evaluates their product, it always predicts the industry's failure, and worse, predicts their takeover by AI. But if you don't believe me and you want evidence, we can look at another industry that's been just completely demolished by AI, the visual arts. So when I first started my undergraduate in engineering approximately 15 years ago, I tried to convince every single one of my artist friends that AI was a legitimate threat to art, and of course they didn't believe me because art is the human endeavor. But I pointed to one very specific thing. Since the 20th century, the art industry had lost all standards. We were in the era of Jackson Pollock, who was famous for randomly throwing paint onto a canvas. One of artist Kazimir Malevich's most famous paintings from 1915 was literally a black square. In 2010, a sculptor named Marcel Waldorf won an award for his sculpture of a woman urinating. Essentially, the idea that artistic beauty is in the eye of the beholder is kind of the prevailing theory right now. You couldn't just evaluate art and just say whether or not it was good or bad. This allowed artists to do just about anything and make up a reason for why it's art. But the moment AI art exploded onto the scene, the artists faced a major problem. And that problem actually had nothing to do with artistic skill, and it had nothing to do with technology. It was actually a philosophical problem. If artistic beauty is in the eye of the beholder, it is actually impossible to justify that human art is any better than AI art. Essentially, they had no way to justify their own existence because they gave up their standards over 100 years ago. And the lack of standards that allowed their artistic industry to exist was now being reinterpreted to justify that human artists were no longer necessary. Because without standards, AI art is just as good as anything else. This led to a lot of panicking art.
Hey, I'll be real, and this might piss a lot of people off, right? Hey guys, I prefer AI art. I'm gonna just be real, like straight up. Like you can be upset at me for that. I prefer AI art. I prefer AI porn. You wanna know why? Because it's really fucking high quality, and they make that shit so quick. Like, there's this fucking artist I follow on Twitter. They're a fan of mine too. Their name is Bale CXI, right? And all their shit is AI, but I swear to God, they make some of the hottest fucking shit I've ever seen in my entire life. Like, whether a human hand made it or not, I truly do not give a fuck.
Artists turning to really poorly thought out metrics. Things like AI art had no soul, or AI art had no artistic intention behind its choices. I wanted to see how valid these metrics really were.
Sorry, just correct that. They use AI art and then they correct it manually to where, like, they change the colors. If there's an extra finger, they get rid of it. But it's like half AI, half real. So they make the AI and then they edit it themselves to make it look the best they possibly can. And that's why I think it's insane, right? Because that's what people should be doing, to be honest, is work with AI rather than say it can't exist.
So I conducted a bit of an experiment-ish interview with a lot of the detractors of AI art, specifically about Jackson Pollock and his work. The experiment was really simple. I showed them two images. One of them was an AI-generated painting. Usually I chose some sort of fantasy landscape painting like this. The other one is one of Jackson Pollock's paintings. And I asked a very simple question. Do you truly believe that this painting has artistic value and this painting doesn't? And they always said yes. So the natural follow-up was always, please explain why. And this is where they started stumbling over their words. They said things like, there's clear purpose behind the Pollock painting. The Pollock painting actually has a human soul. You can clearly see the intent behind the Pollock painting and all these sorts of weird...
Just fucking art snobs being art snobs, bro. The only reason why Twitter gives a fuck about this is because it's just an artist paraded platform. Nobody actually gives a fuck. If it looks good, it looks good. Like legit. If this art, for real, if this cup was made by AI art from GamerSubs and they charged you $1 to get this because it was made by AI, and the exact same cup was made by a human and it cost $29.99, 95% of you guys are buying the $1 cup. And that's the truth because you don't care. You just want what product that you want for as cheap as possible. And that's what you should do. Okay? You as a consumer should not care. You get the product that you want for as cheap as possible. And you're the same motherfuckers who know that shit also know that in America, tipping is bullshit. That is not my job to pay you to do your job. That's your employer's. Just like artists, it is not my job to keep you afloat. That's your own damn responsibility. It is not my job to keep you afloat. I do not care. It's like I'm not going to feel bad for any streamer that's not getting any donos, getting any subs. I don't care. Make better content. Give your chat a reason to do that, right? I take all of my fucking subs, and I'm so grateful. But I'm not going to guilt you guys if you're in here not subbing, right? Oh my God. You're watching my stream for free? Oh my God. You're not supporting me? Like, what the fuck am I, Pokemon? Shut the fuck up. You can do that if you want. You do not have to at all.
Random reasons. And
I will try my best to provide you guys the best amount of content to where you guys watch and I can make a living by earning ad revenue. That is what I want to do. I appreciate y'all subs, but it should not be y'all's responsibility to keep me financially stable. And that's the fucking truth.
even as they stumble over their words, I always gave them the chance to take back what they said. Something like, if you can't come up with a reason, you can just take it back and just say the two paintings are equal or something like that. But for like the 100 people I interviewed, they never took it back. They always claimed that the Pollock painting clearly had intent and value and was more interesting, and AI art simply wasn't. So you can just imagine their panic when I revealed to them that that Pollock painting they just gassed up was made by AI. So yeah, I generated that image a couple years back using ChatGPT specifically to run this experiment. And you can believe me, the backpedaling that they tried to do was absolutely painful. And from here, I asked them a very simple question. Based on what you know now, will you admit that AI art has real artistic value? And like half of them just stormed out before they even had a chance to answer because they knew they couldn't answer without completely destroying their beliefs. If they answered yes, they had to admit that AI art was actually valuable. And if they answered no, they had to admit that they lied. They were told that an image, in this case the AI Pollock image, was valuable simply because Jackson Pollock made it. And from there, they just reverse engineered any reason they wanted to justify why the image was valuable. That sounds familiar. Maybe like a casting director who listens to a voice actor he's friends with and just so happens to hear that he's the best. But everyone knows it's just the Emperor's new clothes. You know that story of the Emperor dancing around in his underwear and everyone has to pretend he's wearing pretty clothes because they don't want to get beheaded? We look upon a picture of paint thrown on a wall and the artists demand that you pretend it's valuable. But when you show a coal miner a picture of a black square and tell him that it's more valuable than his entire career of mining for coal, when you tell a 9-to-5 office worker that he's uncultured and uncivilized because he doesn't respect the artistic value of a painting of literally nothing, when you stop considering what the common man thinks is good and demand that your art be respected through either nonsensical standards or even just blatant lies, do not be surprised when the
art appreciators are some of the dumbest motherfuckers on earth, guys. I'm sorry.
Common man.
There is somebody who bought a banana taped to a wall for $60 million. Come on.
And cheers for your destruction. And unfortunately, this is where the voice acting industry finds themselves now. We've used up all our goodwill in the SAG-AFTRA strike. We've stopped using the same metrics that the audience uses to decide what is a good product. We've blatantly attacked and disregarded the gamers. So do not be surprised when the gamers cheer as AI destroys the entire voiceover industry that has been built on a lie. And by the way, for the few voice actors that are still watching out there, I'm not even saying that casting directors are bad at their jobs. Many casting directors I know are actually amazing at their jobs. But what I am saying is that if you cast someone for a job, you better be able to justify it to the audience. Because casting is effectively deciding who gets to represent your product. So if you end up casting someone who attacks the gamers, is a bully, is threatening, or is just blatantly hostile, I guarantee you won't be able to justify that. Now, since we've talked a lot about blacklists, I just wanted to leave something with the gamers that is actually really important and can help you take back your games from some of the more malicious players of the industry. The real blacklist belongs to the gamers. This is really important to understand because as a collective, you gamers have a blacklist that is far more powerful than anything else in the industry. And it's actually really easy to use. So say there's a voice actor that you think doesn't represent what you want the gaming industry to be. You simply need to take 2 very easy steps. Step 1, don't buy their games. Super easy, right? If they're in a game and you don't want them to represent the industry, just simply refuse to buy their games. The companies will notice. And frankly, you guys have done a great job of that in the past, taking down a whole bunch of games that you all felt were not really what you wanted. Honestly, it's kind of scary how good you guys are at that. Step 2, let the companies know why you're
do 1 step ahead. Just pirate it instead.
Not buying their games. When a company announces their game on Twitter, for example, simply make a straightforward and simple statement. Something like, due to how this person bullies their fellow voice actors, I will no longer be buying games that feature them. Or, I believe that this person does not represent what I want from the gaming industry, and I will no longer be buying games that feature them. But the next part is really important. Do not be lulled into a bad faith conversation. If someone responds to your post with insults or hatred, simply ignore them. Do not turn your statements into bullying, and definitely do not turn them into threats, doxing, or harassment. The arts industries are really good at ignoring criticism if they can turn it into something worse. Do not give them an excuse to ignore your criticism. Simply make the straightforward statement with no bullying and no insults and walk away. I guarantee you the companies will notice, because at the end of the day, you guys guys are the ones paying them. And if you guys stop paying them, you bet they will fix things immediately. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. Get out there.
Great fucking video. Very well informed. Calling out the bullshit. Telling how it is. Yeah, voice acting is only a matter of time till it's over. And, well, I'm not really celebrating that fact. It is just very interesting to see now, isn't it?